Hi guys! How are you today? Welcome back to my channel, Adventures in America. If you're new to my channel, my name is Jocelyn, and for today's topic, I'm going to discuss the new exit requirements for Philippine passport holders and dual citizens. I'm also going to provide you a complete departure guide for all passengers at the end of this video. Now, there is an immigration advisory providing for the exit requirements for Philippine passport holders or those holding dual citizenship documents. Now, if you are not a Philippine passport holder or you are a former Filipino citizen and you are planning to apply for dual citizenship and eventually apply for a Philippine passport, this memorandum from the immigration can affect you. Now, let me provide you the new exit requirements from the Bureau of Immigration.
This is in regards to the departure requirements for Philippine passport holders, identification certificate or certificate of reacquisition or retention. All passengers who use these travel documents upon arrival and were admitted under the same status shall be required to present the same during departure. Accordingly, if you use a travel document, you will also be required to present the above documents during departure. Non-presentation of the required documents shall be a ground for the deferral of your departure. So please take note of this important advisory. In essence, if you arrived in the Philippines using these travel documents, you must also use the same documents to exit the Philippines. Now, here's the actual memorandum from the Commissioner of the Bureau of Immigration, Jaime Morente.
Now, if you enter using your foreign passport or, for example, a US passport, and eventually you become a dual citizen, you must also use the same US passport to exit the Philippines, regardless if you eventually acquired dual citizenship or obtained a new Philippine passport. Here are the departure guidelines for all passengers exiting the Philippines. For first-time immigrants, students enrolled abroad, and exchange visitors, here are the requirements. First, you must have a valid Philippine passport that is more than 6 months and beyond. In addition, you must have the appropriate visa as a student or an exchange visitor. In addition, for first-time immigrants, students, and exchange visitors, you must have a certificate from the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, which means you must have a pre-departure seminar before leaving the Philippines. You must also secure the appropriate travel and health insurance, and you can obtain this either in the Philippines or abroad. In the US, I would recommend visiting the visitor's coverage for travel medical insurance plans. Another set of passengers are outbound Filipinos for tourist purposes. There are strict requirements by the Bureau of Immigration. Aside from proving the financial capacity to travel outside the Philippines, you must also secure the appropriate travel documents before leaving the country. The first requirement is having a valid Philippine passport that is more than 6 months and beyond. Another important requirement is to secure the appropriate travel or medical health insurance. The Bureau of Immigration will not let you exit the Philippines without a travel insurance. Outbound Filipinos can have two options of securing travel insurance in the Philippines or outside the Philippines. Please take note that this is not an endorsement of a travel insurance company in the Philippines, but just the necessity of securing a travel insurance. Another requirement is the possession of a round-trip ticket. The next set of passengers are dual citizens, former Filipinos, or US citizens or foreign nationals. You must have a valid foreign passport or a US passport. Please remember that US passport holders do not need to pay a travel tax in the Philippines. Also, dual citizens, former Filipinos, or other foreign nationals do not need a travel pass from the Bureau of Immigration.
There are only select foreign nationals that needed to secure the travel pass. Now, for those U.S. green card holders, you must have a valid green card or your stay in the Philippines or outside the U.S. must be not more than 1 year. There are strict requirements for U.S. green card holders who stayed outside the U.S. for more than 1 year. If you are in this situation, you must secure a returning resident visa if you stayed outside of the U.S. for more than 1 year. So that means you cannot enter the U.S. if you are a green card holder who overstayed outside of the U.S. You needed to contact the nearest U.S. Embassy and apply for a returning resident visa. Now, who needs a travel pass from the Bureau of Immigration in the Philippines? There are only a select foreign nationals pursuant to the Philippine Immigration Act of 1940 and other special laws governing the visa issuing agencies. If you're a foreign national for investment purposes, you will need to secure a travel pass from the Bureau of Immigration. Now, let's talk about the Philippine Travel Tax and who needed to pay this tax upon leaving the country. Now, the Philippine Travel Tax is a levy imposed by the Philippine government on individuals who are leaving the Philippines, irrespective of the place where the air ticket is issued or form or place of payment. Now, the Philippine Travel Tax is paid by all Philippine passport holders leaving the Philippines. How much is the travel tax? For business class or economy, the cost is 1,620. And for reduced travel tax, the cost is 810 pesos. And for reduced travel tax for dependents of overseas Filipino worker, the cost is 300 pesos. Now, here are the forms common to all passengers from Philippines. First, you will need to fill out a departure card. In addition, you will also have to fill out the Bureau of Immigration's Travel Declaration Form. This is a one-page form and you must provide all the important information before leaving the Philippines. I will send the link below in my description regarding this form. Another is that all passengers must fill out and download the Traze Mobile Application form for contact tracing. Also, all passengers from the Philippines, if you are fully vaccinated, you must secure an international certificate of vaccination because you will need this when your destination will require you to provide proof of vaccination. You can request for an international certificate of vaccination or ICV from the Bureau of Quarantine. To book an appointment, go to www.icv.boq.ph. Also, request for a digital proof of vaccination from the VaxCert.ph portal can be done, and fully vaccinated travelers may generate their own vaccination certificate by logging onto the website. Now, for all Philippine airline passengers, if you are flying through PAL, there are forms that you needed to fill out. First, the PAL Passenger Information Form. And second, if you are testing through a PAL partner laboratory, you must also fill out the laboratory form for COVID tests. So all passengers must register to the PAL Passenger Information Form as early as 24 hours and 5 days before departure for PAL partner ECIF. Let's talk about the latest U.S. travel restrictions. There is an important advisory for all U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Please take note, U.S. citizens and permanent residents are exempt from the COVID vaccine requirement. This is based on the proclamation. But you must have a one-day negative testing or proof of recovery within 90 days of flying. All passengers to the U.S. are required to fill out the customs declaration from the airline. In addition,
Please submit or fill out the latest version of the CDC Attestation Form. Please also submit or fill out the U.S. Traveler Health Declaration Form, which will be supplied by airline personnel. For allowed and prohibited items, please consult the TSA website. You can also enroll for TSA pre-check for a faster screening process to the U.S. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is revising the current global testing order to shorten the timeline for required testing for all international air travelers to 1 day before departure to the U.S. Beginning December 6, all air travelers, regardless of citizenship or vaccination status, will be required to show a negative pre-departure COVID-19 viral test taken the day before they board their flight to the United States. For example, a passenger whose flight to the U.S. is at any time on a Sunday would need to have a negative test taken at any time on Saturday. Now, what is the rule for unvaccinated Americans and legal permanent residents under the new travel system starting December 6? Unvaccinated Americans and legal permanent residents are allowed to enter the country with a test taken within 1 day of departing for the U.S. The new rule will make the testing time frame 1 day for everyone. Does 1 day mean 24 hours? The answer is no. Per the CDC, the 1 day time frame is used to provide more flexibility to the air passenger and aircraft operator. Acceptance of the test does not depend on the time of the flight or time of the day. For example, if your flight is 1 p.m. on a Friday, you can board the plane with a negative test taken anytime on the prior Thursday. How does the testing requirement apply to children? The answer is yes. It applies to all air passenger 2 years or older flying into the U.S. So it's still the same requirement as before. Foreign travelers must provide official vaccination documentation, and airlines will confirm that the last dose was at least 2 weeks prior to the travel date. There are also specific information regarding official documentation. First, the personal identifiers, such as your name or date of birth, must match the personal identifiers on the travel documents. You must also name the official source and the vaccine manufacturer and the date of vaccination. You must also prove that you are fully vaccinated depending on the type of vaccine that you received, whether it is a single dose or a 2-dose series of vaccine. Also, if you received mixed vaccines, you will also be considered fully vaccinated. If not, you will be denied boarding. Now, how the 14 days are calculated. Your last dose must have been given a full 14 days before the day you board your flight to the U.S. The vaccines must be approved either by the U.S. FDA or by the World Health Organization for emergency use. Here are the approved vaccines by the U.S. FDA: Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and Moderna. Now, here are the approved vaccines for emergency use by the World Health Organization: Pfizer or BioNTech, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Covaxin, Covishield, Sinopharm, and Sinovac. The newly approved is Covaxin. Because there are countries around the world who administered mix and match vaccines, it will also be acceptable and you will also be considered as fully vaccinated by the CDC. Now, which vaccines are not accepted in the US? First is Sputnik 5. Second, Novavax. And third, Abdala. And fourth, Soberana. These are the not approved vaccines in the US. Now, let's talk about the proof of vaccination that you can present when traveling to the US. There are several options or acceptable documents that you can present when boarding. Now, here are the list of acceptable proof of vaccination. You can present a verifiable record such as a digital or paper. As an example, you can present a certificate of vaccination with a digital QR code. Some examples are those issued by the United Kingdom or European Union. You can also present non-verifiable paper records such as a printout of COVID-19 vaccination record. Another proof of vaccination that you can present is unverifiable digital records. As an example, you can present digital copies of vaccination record or downloaded vaccine record or vaccine certificate from an official source. If a passenger has recovered from COVID-19, you must provide proof of documentation of your recovery. This includes like a positive viral test or a positive COVID test and a letter from a public health official stating that you have been cleared from COVID. The document of recovery from COVID-19 means that the passenger has presented documentation of a positive test result and a signed letter on official letterhead that contains the name, address, and phone number of a licensed healthcare provider or public health official stating that the passenger has been cleared for travel and the positive test occurred within the last 3 months or 90 days prior to flight departure to the U.S., and personal identifiers on the positive test result and signed letter match the personal identifiers on the passenger's passport or other travel documents. And the test must be a viral test and the test result states positive or COVID-19 detected. Immigrants to the U.S. who are already green card holders are not required to get vaccinated. However, if you are applying to enter the U.S. as immigrant, you are required to have a medical examination that includes a COVID-19 vaccination before issued an immigrant visa. Also, there are no religious exemptions for international travelers to avoid COVID-19 requirements based on the CDC website. Because of the new travel system, airlines will collect personal information, including a phone number and an email from all US-bound passengers for contact tracing. Now, here are the requirements after arrival in the US. For those vaccinated, there is no quarantine required after arrival. However, all travelers are recommended to get tested within 3 to 5 days after arrival in the US. Now, for those unvaccinated, all travelers are recommended to get tested and in addition, stay home for full 7 days. Also, the Biden administration has extended the mask requirement until March 18 of 2022. First, masks can be either be manufactured or homemade and should be a solid piece of material without slits, exhalation valves, or punctures. However, there are certain categories of persons exempt from wearing a mask. First, children under the age of 2. Second, people of disabilities who cannot wear a mask or cannot safely wear a mask because of the disability as defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Third, people for whom wearing a mask would create a risk to workplace health, safety, or job duty as determined by the relevant workplace safety guidelines or federal regulations. If you haven't liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. Now, if you recently traveled in the Philippines, please post your travel experience and let us know what you think of the travel restrictions. Now, if you have any other questions or comments, please post them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thank you guys for supporting my channel. I hope everyone is staying safe and have a great day.